Welcome to Enjoy the Journey podcast, where we interview expert entrepreneurs and thought leaders to help guide you in pursuit of financial freedom. Presented to you by Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor, where we help service-based business owners remove cash flow bottlenecks, maximize their profits, and turn business profits into personal wealth. G'day guys, this is Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor. We're here for another episode of the Enjoy the Journey podcast. Now, I've got another new friend that I've met from the Clubhouse platform, which has been a phenomenal platform to get connected to some amazing industry experts from around the world. And I'm really looking forward to doing a bit of a deep dive with Treadwell today from the Mortgage Marketing Expert podcast. And he's also got a number of other business interests as well. So he's going to share some amazing insights. And looking forward to doing a bit of a deep dive today. So Phil, thanks for joining us, mate. How's things?
Man, things are great. I appreciate you having me on. It's interesting. Clubhouse has been an incredible opportunity to meet all kinds of folks like yourself and from really all over the world. It's not specified to one specific region, so it's been a lot of fun so far.
It has. It's definitely breaking down those barriers and opening that communication, which I think can only do good things. So, Phil, give us a little bit of an insight of you. What do you do, and who do you help?
Sure. I appreciate that. I'm 17-year mortgage and real estate professional, typically on the mortgage side, helping people secure home loans, but done a lot with real estate investors and folks of that nature. Background has been in sales and marketing almost exclusively. I also am the co-founder of Industry Syndicate, and that is really just a podcast network specifically for mortgage and real estate professionals to help them build their business, find really relevant content for what's happening in today's era, if you will. My passion is really to help people build their business and create marketing that's very relevant. And I talk a lot about how marketing is the balance of trust and attention. People can be aware of you, but if you've not created any trust or relevance that people want to do business with you, you're capped. But you could be one of the most trusted professionals at what you do, but if no one knows who you are, you're still not going to do any business. So we really focus around creating that brand story and creating relevance with people. So as you start conversations, they don't just buy into what you do, they buy into why you do it.
I think that's so important. I think particularly in the mortgage space, many professionals can be commoditized. They're just a cog in the wheel that ultimately leads to an end outcome. And ultimately, I think that it's so important that mortgage brokers are focusing on talking about the why they do what they do and what makes them different in terms of their own experience. And so it's really interesting that you bring that up, mate, because I think it's something that we all need to be talking about more often.
Yeah, it definitely is. At the end of the day, people don't necessarily, people do business based upon relationships, right? And the only way to create a relationship is to find commonality. And that's why I keep using that word relevance is, why is it important to them? What part of your story can they buy into because they have a shared personal experience? And then what happens is the rest of the stuff goes out the window because, we all know somebody that can, fix a hole in the roof or someone that has a bakery around the corner, right? We do business with those people first because we have something in common with them. So that's why it's really important, especially like you said, in industries where what you sell or the service you provide does get commoditized in there. And that's what we're really up against.
That's really key. And what's really interesting is your story of how you got involved in this, Phil. Similar to myself, I got involved in the finance industry when I was 19, as I was very young in an industry that's typically old dudes with grey hair and blue suits. So it's not really a sexy industry for a young person to get into, right? I think most people don't wake up as a kid and say, hey, I want to be a finance broker or I want to be a real estate agent or a financial advisor. So mate, what led you in this industry of typically, I guess, a very traditional industry that's primarily older individuals?
So the short version of the story was I answered a newspaper ad. My dad's a builder. He had a construction company and I'd gone to school and I'd done some sales jobs and some management jobs and whatnot. And I really planned on taking over my dad's company. And he said, before you decide you want to do this for the next 30 or 40 years, I really want you to see what else is out there. And I answered an ad for a company that was looking for someone with sales and management experience. And it ended up being in the mortgage business. Now, what I found when I got into it was that it was an aging industry. I always talk about it. It was run by the white hairs of the world, right? Those old guys with the blue suits like you were talking about. And it was funny because after I did that first week of training, my first mentor said, hey, you need to wear a tie and keep the hair on your face so it makes you look older. That way people will take you seriously. Well, the implication right there is that if that regardless of what I said or did or even knew, I wasn't going to be taken seriously because I was so young, right? I think, 22 at the time. As I continued to progress in my career, I constantly was being underestimated because I was young, not necessarily the experience that I had, but people automatically assumed that because I was young, I was inexperienced, especially in the financial services realm or the real estate realm. Even into my career, several years ago, as I was running a region and I was running, branches across the country, I was still 8 or 9, 10 years younger than the next youngest in my position. And I kept having to kind of break this ceiling. Well, now what's happening is when you talk about a millennial generation, when you talk about the really force that's driving a lot of business, it's for the reason we have social media and adopted the way it is. When you look at those generational aspects, that is the group of people that's the future of our workforce, that's the future of the dollars that we're spending. And so now all of a sudden I've spent 17 years learning from the old school way of doing business, but I still have an appetite and I can relate to this new generation. So that's really how I've kind of spun that brand. Is what was originally a weakness in their eyes, I've now turned into a strength, because those that have been doing it twice as long as I have, that's not a plus in today's market. That means you're outdated. That means you don't understand some of these new platforms and technologies that are coming along. And so I definitely relate to your story. Guys like you and I that wear half button up shirts, polo shirts, things like that, and didn't wear the full on suit. That was taboo. That was a no-no. You were supposed to like look the part and fake it till you make it and all those things. I'm really glad that we're in a world now where people are more focused on, hey, how is that person like me? Again, what is their story that I can relate with? Because again, millennials are the most socially minded generation in history. They want to be connected with people. They want to know the why. And we could go industry by industry and talk about huge brands that have exploded because of the brand story, because of the cause that they're supporting, not because they're, a Fortune 500 company or whatever else.
I think that's so important. I think there's a really important balance between the old school tactics and then the new school way of doing things. And I think guys like us are really the kind of bridging the gap between those two, because very similar to you, Phil, I learned the very old school way. And there was an element of personal branding, the old school way, that it's so relevant still today. And that they were masterful at it because they really didn't have any other way of promoting and building their businesses. It was all about their reputation. Their reputation was everything. But I think a lot of those older generation have really been slow on the uptake in terms of social media and are scared by it. And I know that you do a lot of work in terms of that personal branding and social media as a way of kind of illustrating that why. So how do you make that easy thing for people to get into, maybe those who haven't had experience or think that it's too complicated? How do you help them bridge that gap, Phil?
So the two things I'll say is when we talk about this topic of a personal brand, people need to remember it's more about the person than it is the brand. So many people think you need to go get a logo or you need to get this color scheme and I've got to, rebuild my social media profiles. A personal brand is about your reputation and what people say about you, who you are and what you do. And so to build a personal brand, if you're in real estate or if you're in financial services or if you're in any industry, it's more about talking about your life and documenting your day to day, whether that's personal or work, and letting people connect with the things that, again, they care about. If you think about, if you're sitting in a waiting room and, at a doctor's office for an hour and you're just frustrated, when you open social media, you don't open it for an advertisement. You don't open it for a commercial or to hear about someone's business. You open it up to see a funny video or to read something interesting or nostalgic. So if you want to gain that attention, you have to put out content that people want to pay attention to. You can pepper in things about your expertise, about your business, what you do, but that should be a much, much smaller percentage to the things that you're sharing that people actually care about. And so to build a personal brand, you need to be talking about you as a person. The second piece of that on social media, again, let's keep it social and let's stop talking about the media part of it. And I tell people that if you've not spent a lot of time on social media, or if you're wanting to get started, don't focus on creating content or making posts. Go engage with other people's posts, right? Who is the target market that you're after, that you want to invite into your community or to connect with? go seek them out and go comment, go share, go engage with the stuff that they're doing. Because I tell people all the time, if I post something on social media, only a certain number, a certain percentage of people that follow me are going to see it. But if I go post on your, or if I go comment on your post, you're for sure going to see it. And so that's what you have to keep in mind is, the best way to gain relationships and interact with people isn't just to share stuff out all the time. Go engage, go be social, go start conversations. And, at the end of the day, they'll go look at your stuff. They'll go engage with you. I think the best way to be a great social media practitioner is to consume a lot of it, is to go test it, go try it, go participate in what the platform was designed for, and you'll figure out how to use it to grow your business.
Really refreshing, mate, because I think it's a really great perspective, because I found that any type of relationship is two-way, and there needs to be two parties to have a conversation. And I think social media for many people is very one-dimensional. It's very one-sided. It's just like them constantly trying to share their stuff and wondering why people aren't engaging in their content. And of course, it's an important part of creating your own content, sharing your ideas, and particularly sharing your stories and insights into your life. But focusing on actually seeking out the people that you want and having a conversation with them is going to be a much better way to get them to reciprocate. So I think that's super important.
Yeah, it's even my podcast, for example. I typically put out a podcast episode once a week or once every couple of weeks, right? I try to be consistent, but I have other businesses, I have other things that I need to. We're getting ready to release our 100th episode. We've been doing it about 2.5 years. This month, as we did our prior months, where we're putting out 3 or 4 or 5 episodes in a month. But part of that is because I'm spending a lot of time on Clubhouse. I'm spending a lot of time engaging with people and engaging in other people's content. And so what happens is they go look at my content, they find my podcast, and again, to grow, it's not always about output and trying to ask people to do something for you. If you want to get value from people, try giving value. And it goes to the old Zig Ziglar quote: if you help enough other people get what they want, in the end, you'll get what you want. Now, I think your motives need to be pure. Don't be like, well, I've commented on 25 people's posts and no one's following me. Obviously, that's the wrong attitude to have. But yeah, the algorithms on social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, whatever you're talking about, those algorithms, they reward being a good steward, being a good community member, right? So if you're connecting with people, if you're engaging with people, and then you put a post, they're going to reward you for that, right? Because do those social media platforms exist? They exist to make money. How do they make money? By having ads. Well, if people don't see the ads, then they're limited on the amount of money they make. So if you help keep people on the platform by engaging with people or by sharing good content so that people stay on the platform, so that platform can show ads and make money, the algorithm will reward you for that. And so, you talked about just people posting and wondering why they're not engaging. I also tell people, don't do the social media drive-by, or what I call a post and ghost. Don't go post something and then turn around and leave. Take 5 or 10 minutes and prime the algorithm, prime the system, post, and then stick around. So when people comment, you can immediately comment back and get into a conversation. And I'm telling you, it's surprisingly simple of how easy it is to use social media and grow if you just use common sense. Stop being a salesperson, stop being a marketer, stop trying to complicate it. Why was social media designed? To be social. So go do that, and you'll get all kinds of rewards and dividends for it.
I love that, mate. I'm actually going to take that one because I think I'm guilty of that myself, of just posting content, jumping off, going back to the other thing, because we're all busy, right? And I think sometimes we're concerned about getting sucked into the vortex of pain that is social media sometimes. But I think that using that common sense approach and making sure that you're investing in the platform really work the algorithm as it's supposed to be worked. So that's really valuable insights. So Phil, ultimately, we're all doing this personal branding, this social media stuff because we want to generate leads. And whether you're a mortgage broker, you're in the real estate space, or you're any other service-based business owner, I think that's ultimately what we're trying to get to. But I think many people are frustrated that maybe social media hasn't worked for them. They're not getting the consistency of lead flow that they want. What do you feel are the biggest mistakes that these service-based business owners and professional services businesses are making when it comes to lead generation, whether it be social media or other platforms?
Not being patient enough. This takes consistent and persistent effort over time. If you talk to anyone that's had any success in any business, regardless of how they created leads, regardless of how they did their business, they put in work, and they put in work consistently over time. So whether you're running a Facebook ad, or if you're just using social media for content and organic leads and whatnot, you have to be patient. Now, the whole reason to do it consistently is so that you have a baseline. If you're putting out videos, and certain videos are getting more views or more reach than others, you need to know what are the common denominators between the ones that are performing and the ones that aren't. Is it that there's more or less written copy in the post? Is it a certain time of day for your audience? Is there a certain subject matter that you're talking about? Or is the video just not good, right? Sometimes we don't want to talk about that. Sometimes your creative or the thing that you're posting just sucks. And we don't talk about it a lot because we want people to not focus on whether it's good or not. We want you just to take action. So don't hear me and think that I'm saying everything you put out needs to be polished and perfect, because it's actually quite the opposite. Some of the most engaged content will be the least professional or the least polished. But you do have to, if it's for the purposes of creating leads, you need to be able to discern between, is this good or is it not? And that may be the simple reason of, that wasn't a very good picture on Instagram. That's why, no one engaged with it. Giving it enough time and being patient is probably the number one mistake. And again, I think the number two thing, and I got an opportunity to do a podcast recording with Gary Vaynerchuk. And I think most people in marketing and social media know who he is. One of the things that we talked about in there was the difference between marketing and sales. Marketing is getting someone's attention. Sales is what makes them a customer. And so many people think they're marketing, trying to create awareness and attention, and really all they're trying to do is sell. So when you're talking about lead creation, you have to take that journey with them of that know, like, and trust. They have to know you before they like you before they trust you. And are you being patient in that journey? Or as soon as you have someone, are you trying to get a call to action? Well, that's sales. That's not marketing. That's not awareness. So be patient and take that journey, which is also patience, but understand, am I marketing or am I really just selling? And I think a lot of people get turned off, at least consumers on social media, by all there is these ads, or people are showing me properties or their products and trying to sell. Tell a story, get them in, and then again, they'll care about what you're doing a lot more.
I think that's really important for the mortgage broking and real estate industry, because it is a relatively long-term buying cycle. The customer and consumer, when they're ready to buy, they want to buy quickly. And you need to be top of mind and relevant when that time is. And it's very, very hard to know exactly when that's going to be. So consistency is so important. And I've seen so many mortgage brokers and real estate agents alike that they're kind of just hot and cold with their marketing. They're really effective with their marketing for a period of time. They get frustrated with it because they're not getting leads, and they're going to stuff it, throw their hands up. We've had situations in our mortgage business that people have followed us for 2 years. And just because we've been so consistent, they've said, "Hey, Jackson, I'm ready now. What do I need to do next to take the plunge?" 2 years. And that's the thing. You never know who is watching. So it's important to keep that consistency.
And I guess most people don't wait long enough. They just don't. Like you said, what happens if you stop creating content at 20 months of the 24 months or whatever else? And I mortgage and real estate specifically, our industry is not sexy. Right? Talking about mortgage vocabulary, I say it all the time. No one cares what the definition of amortization is unless they're literally asking in that moment, how much is my balance going down with each payment? So when we talk about this education side of it, education from a professional's point of view is different than a consumer. They just want to know what a mortgage is. Like, is that a home loan, or is there this elusive thing called a mortgage? What actually is it? So because our subject matter, and I deal with a lot of insurance agents. Insurance isn't sexy either. I'm not really sure what I'm paying for whenever I pay my insurance premiums. Like, if my house burns down, I'm glad I have it, but what is it I'm paying for every month? So some of the most successful marketers I know are people in industries where the subject matter isn't really fun, but they try to put out content in a way that, again, people stay with you for that life cycle. And that's where the patient comes in. So props for staying consistent, because that's really where you make customers for life, because you've taken the time to develop the relationship.
And I think this is where the consistency falls off, Phil, that I think most people run out of ideas of what content they can produce. There's only so many videos or posts that you can do about what is a mortgage and what's the process. And I think many people just come into this like content fatigue. And funnily enough, we're only talking about it with our private clients the other day of how do we come up with new, fresh ideas for content creation to keep top of mind and relevant long term. So what would be some actionable tips that professional services businesses, whether it be mortgage brokers, real estate agents, can do to keep their content fresh and to make sure that they can continue to be consistent?
I think you have to have some content pillars. And I talk about pillar content in two different ways. One, think of like when you see a house that has pillars, there's typically 3 or 4 main ones, right? There's not 50 of them. There's not one, there's 3 or 4. And you need to think of those as buckets or subject matter that you can go to at any day, at any time, and find something halfway interesting to talk about or share. For me, it's mortgage and real estate as an industry. The second is really podcasting. One is my family and what I do around there. You can see over my shoulder, I have a couple of guitars. I like to talk about guitars. And I've owned a brewery and I brew beer. So, that's another subject matter. Those are all very different, but they're all about who I am. So at any time, at any day, I can go to those content pillars and say, you know what, I could pull my guitar out and do a 30-second video of me playing a guitar, and that's going to be engaging with people. Or you just have to find some things that are go-tos so that you don't have to overcomplicate this. What is creating content? You just kind of document your life and share. The other way to think of pillar content is think of a piece of long form content, whether that's a blog, a podcast recording like this, a video. If you have a long form piece of content about whatever it is, you can then repurpose that into smaller pieces of content to share across social media. And I always use my podcast as an example. I record my podcast recording much like you and I are through Zoom. I take the audio and that becomes a podcast. I take the video. Sometimes I'll make a small video clip. Sometimes I will have it transcribed into a few 1 or 2 liners for some quotes. I might take a screenshot and share a picture, but I can repurpose that one thing, this one conversation, into multiple other pieces of content to share. So that's really how to stay consistent, is understand what is it I'm doing. I have 4 or 5 pieces of subject matter that I can go to at any given time. And then every once in a while, I create a big long form piece of content that I can break down and repurpose and share. And then it just becomes a matter of how do you have enough time to post all the places you want to post, because you have content coming out of your eyes.
It's so genius. It's something that we've been doing, and we were definitely on the content treadmill for a really long time, just kind of thinking about doing it the hard way, really. And I call it kind of exiting the matrix. Once you discover that you can take long form content and then turn it into all of these amazing pieces of content that appeal to different audiences, because I'm sure you'd find, Phil, that there's certain people who are happy to listen to an hour, or even if you listen to, say, people like Joe Rogan, 3-hour podcasts, but not everyone has the patience or the time for that. But somebody's happy to maybe watch or listen to a 60-second audiogram, or read a short quote or a snippet of a piece of gold from a podcast. And it's just by diversifying and repurposing this content, you can appeal to so many more different types of people.
And it's funny you bring up Joe Rogan, because he breaks all of the statistics around how long should a podcast episode be, or what to talk about, or what do you call it. If anyone that's listened to either a fraction of Joe Rogan's podcast or the whole thing, and someone came up and asked you who'd never heard it, so what is the Joe Rogan experience about? What are you going to tell them? You can't tell them anything. Why? Because he sits and has conversations about nothing with really interesting people. So when people try to overcomplicate content, go take your cell phone and either pull out the voice recorder or turn on the camera and have a conversation with someone you find interesting about nothing and share it on social media. And I promise you, people will watch. We are wired to be voyeurs. There's a reason that Facebook stalking is a term, right? We all do it. 100%. We consciously want to know what's going on in people's lives. And I think that's the power of it, is opposed to having something polished, the different challenges, the ice bucket challenge, all those things that have gone around for years. we're literally watching people sit in a chair and someone else dump ice water over their head. Now it was for a good cause. Like, right, there's some benevolent mission there, but it shows that we sat there and watched, or I did, every single one of them. Like, or the push-up challenges. Like, I just want to see, can the guy do 15 push-ups or 20 push-ups? So don't overcomplicate it. Even Joe Rogan, millions and millions of dollars because he has conversations with people about nothing or everything, depending on how you look at it.
And here's the interesting thing. I think mindset plays a big part, and we're our own worst
Mm.
critic. And I know this, I had this experience recently when I've been starting to fire up my YouTube channel around this trip that we're doing around Australia, and really creating a vlog of documenting the whole journey and our travels and sharing experiences. And as I'm editing these videos that are really an insight into my life, I'm like, wow, is this really that interesting? Like, is anyone ever going to watch this? Or am I going to lose people midway? And then I had to really put myself into a position of other videos and really other similar channels that I follow that really is exactly the same content that I'm completely immersed in. So I think we really need to get out of our own heads and stop critiquing our work, because I think the biggest risk here is that we don't end up doing anything because we're so fearful of it not being good enough.
So from a mindset standpoint, you just have to do it, right? So here's the hard truth, whether people want to hear it or not. If you don't like what you look like on camera, or you don't like what you sound like on camera, we have news for you. That's what everyone else is seeing and hearing when we see you and listen to you. So that's who you are. That's authentic. That's real. So just get out of your own head and realize, I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I sound. And I do the same thing, right? I have a podcast because I don't love video. Now I do it and I'm on camera and I do those things because I realize the value that I have goes beyond my own insecurities. And every single person has something to say. They have something to offer. They have something to share. Even if it's a knock knock joke, I don't care. You've got something to say. Get out of your head, just go do it. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you are. And if you think of any celebrity that's an actor, actress, or a musician or an athlete, they didn't walk up and just automatically start doing it at a high level. And I would venture to guess they probably did it at a really, really bad level, and it would give you a lot of hope. And I tell people on my podcast, you want to go to listen to my it was actually my second episode, but the first interview I did was a huge industry professional, Barry Habib. He's well known in and out of the mortgage industry in the US. And he was an acquaintance. We had mutual friends, and he took pity on me and decided he'd be on my podcast. And there wasn't a lot of podcasts in the industry. I had my list of questions on my screen next to him, and I read a question, and he gave just great gold. I mean, he's a great communicator. And I said, fantastic. And I asked the next question, and he would do it again. And I would said, fantastic. And if you listen to it, I didn't add anything to the conversation. It was terrible. It was horrible. Now, the podcast was great because Barry had all kinds of awesome things to say. But me as a host, it wasn't good. And so I tell people that you can have success in creating content, but you have to have the at-bats. You have to go practice. Not only have I done 100 episodes on my podcast, I've probably been on 200 other podcasts and webinars and things like that. And you just kind of get used to it. I'm not saying that what I'm doing now is any good, but I'm confident in it, and I try to communicate. And some people are going to like it, some people won't. And what everybody has to make the decision for themselves is, we attract people to us like we are. That's your tribe. The people that don't like it, who cares? They're not your tribe. Move on to the next one.
And this really resonates with me, Phil. I remember I found my first video that I ever posted on YouTube, and I deleted it in like a fit of rage, and I regret it because I wish I could share it with my clients, because it's the same conversation I had. They go, Jackson, you're so good at this. It comes so naturally. How am I supposed to do that? And they're comparing their first video to my 1,000th. And I'm just like, wow, I can only show you my first video that I posted publicly, which was just woeful. And it's just one of those things. It's perseverance pays off. And most people are not naturally gifted at this kind of thing. And just get over yourself. Your first video is the next step to your 100th. And I think having that approach is so important.
And I'll challenge people to pull out your cell phone and record a video and say this: I don't know that this video is going to be any good or not. And I'm scared to be on camera, but I'm doing it. And I just wanted to tell you, I hope you have a great day. My friends in the north have a foot of snow on the ground, and us down here, it's 60 degrees and sunny. I hope you have a great day. I know this video is terrible. Bye, and hang up. And post it on social media. And you know what's going to happen? People are going to be like, hell yeah, good job. I'm glad you did it. I'm glad you got out of your comfort zone. And you're going to get the affirmation that everyone who is on the video journey did the same thing. Number one, the other people will applaud you because at least you had enough guts to do it. And that's where we have to tell ourselves is getting out of our comfort zone is how you grow. And like a mentor told me, if you take a rubber band and stretch it, it never goes back down to the original size. It'll always be a little bit bigger. Now, if you stretch it way out here, does that mean it's going to stay out here? No, but you keep stretching it, and that's how you grow. And so I just want to challenge people, just go do it and be authentic, be honest, and people will reward that. We really, really will.
This is super valuable, mate. And look, I think this is just really good quality, no BS information that everyone needs to implement. It doesn't matter if you're a mortgage broker, a real estate agent, or whether you're in any business. And these are just fundamentals that are going to allow you to capitalize on the opportunities that exist in 2021 and beyond. So, Phil, with this being said, we've covered a lot of great content today. I'd really like to kind of summarize this into some key takeouts and actions that anybody listening to this can go and take away and implement. What do you think are the three most important things that listeners need to go away and do to grow their business in 2021?
Be real, be who you are on social media. If you want to create a personal brand, be you. Share things that you're interested in and document your life. And by documenting your life, on Instagram specifically, a lot of people are like, well, I'm not sure how to use stories. And I heard this on Clubhouse the other day, and I keep sharing it because it's so simple. And I don't know why I never even thought about it. On your phone, set an alarm for every 3 hours or a timer to go off every 3 hours. And when it goes off, take a picture of whatever's in front of you and say something about it. You know what? Now you're doing Instagram stories. And so that's authentic. You're documenting your life. You're sharing with other people. I know people think, well, my desk, 2 or 3 times in a row, that's not going to be, very interesting. Well, write something with it. Still here with an emoji face, right? That's entertaining for people. And that's really what we want to see when we open up, not a huge drone video of a $2 million home that most people probably won't own, right? Then you're just like, I don't want to see that, or whatever else. So I would say, to summarize, to get long-winded, to build a personal brand, make it about the person, be authentic, be yourself. You need to get out of your comfort zone. And then the key to success is this right here. Make a plan, set a goal, work, and then stay consistent. If you're consistent and persistent over time, you will win.
I love that, mate. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to practice what we preach, Phil. So I'm going to do exactly what you just said, because that's a gold piece of advice. I'm going to take a quick photo here, and we're going to post it. And anyone who's listening, do exactly the same thing. Take a photo, whatever you're doing right now, write something about it, and then post it on your Instagram stories or wherever else you want. It might be your first piece of content. It might be your thousandth, but it doesn't matter. It's contributing to your audience and sharing a little bit of insight around how you live your life. Phil, amazing. Mate, if people want to get in contact with you, I know that you're an expert in marketing for mortgage brokers and real estate space. So how are people to best get in contact with you, and how can you help them?
Pretty simple. So my website is just philtreadwell.com. All social media handles is at Phil Treadwell and pretty easy to find. And then my podcast is mepodcast.com. Just mortgage marketing expert is the name of it. And I tell people all the time, I know it says mortgage and it says marketing, but we're talking about success principles. We're talking about mindset. We've had a lot of guests on from all industries and authors and practitioners. And we're here to help people build their business, get out of their way, create relevant content, especially in a more modern era. So if you know anybody that is in sales and marketing, you yourself probably are as well, come have a listen. Some of the episodes may be more applicable than others, but at the end of the day, we're trying to add value to what we do, and we're meeting a lot of cool people along the way. Jackson, I really appreciate you having me on and what you're doing in your space, and I'm pumped to get to know you better, and I'm excited to have you on my podcast as well.
I'm looking forward to it, Phil. You've been an absolute gentleman, shared some amazing gold, and we'll make sure we put all the links in the show notes. So, mate, appreciate you making the time, guys. This has been another episode of the Enjoy the Journey podcast. Hope you've got value. Make sure you take action. This is about progress over perfection. And Phil, look forward to catching up with you again soon, and we'll chat to you then.
You too, man. Appreciate it.